first question directly goes to the audience. Who knows SAP? Have you ever been in touch with SAP? I would say 90% of the people in the room, mission accomplished, we can go, Jana, right? Because our intent was now that the next 48 minutes we will talk about SAP and why SAP is the greatest company in the world. No, just kidding. That's not our intent before leaving the room here. So we would like to talk about technology and look at our platform and why open source is so important for our environment. Before we start directly and going into the agenda, I would like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Michael Wintergerst. In 2002, I started as a C++ and Java developer in the area of virtual machine and system and kernel programming. And then at some point in time, someone pushed me into management position. And therefore, today, I'm running the core development organization of the SAP Cloud Platform. In this role, I'm responsible for Kubernetes, Cloud Foundry, data management, commercialization, and dev experience. Jana, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Jana Richter, also with SAP since 2002, and I'm heading the product management organization with the technical product management for SAP Cloud Platform.
Before we start and look at the agenda, let me start with 3 facts about SAP. Fact number 1 is we're an enterprise software and cloud service provider. We have around about 100,000 employees. The headquarters is in Germany. Second statement, 91% of the Forbes Global 2000 customers are running SAP. And thirdly, and I think that is, for me at least, the most important statement is that it has been said that 75% of the beer drunk in the world has been powered by SAP to some extent. Good. So let's directly jump now into the agenda. So first of all, I would like to briefly introduce the overall SAP Cloud strategy, right? And in particular, I would like to talk about the SAP Cloud Platform, SAP's enterprise platform as a service offering, and put it into the context of the overall strategy. Secondly, we would like to go deeper into the architecture and look about what kind of open source components we have in our platform and what kind of frameworks we have built on top for our customers, partners, and our application stakeholders. Thirdly, I would like to talk about the SAP and Google Partnership. We will look at all the co-innovation projects we are running together with Google, and that you see how strategic and how important the whole partnership is for SAP. Last but not least, I would like to tackle the open source activities we are running and driving at SAP, and look at all the community projects we are bringing into the open source environment. We would like to underpin all our statements with short demos so that you get an impression how our software looks like. So that's the package for today, and hopefully you will enjoy it. So SAP and the Intelligent Enterprise. So let's talk a little bit about the cloud strategy. But before we do that, let's quickly have a look what has happened in the last decades with regards to technology. And by the way, I've seen similar slides also in yesterday's presentation, so it seems to be that we are not the only one thinking in this direction. So technology broadly reached the industry, I think, round about in the 60s and 80s with the emergence of mainframes and personal computers. Unfortunately, I was born in the late 70s, so I'm not very deep in the mainframe topic. I've seen that in pictures and books, right? So I won't go deeper into that. In the late 80s and beginning of the 90s, of course, client-server and the internet reached also the enterprise. Also, that was the time frame where SAP started its global success. It was all around the R3 system, our integrated enterprise resource planning system. It was a simple 3-tier architecture. You have a flat client, a fat client you can install on your personal PC, on your laptop, our so-called SAP GUI, and it connects to an application server, a highly scalable application server written in C++. And on top, you can run application logic in ABAP, our SAP proprietary fourth generation language, and underneath there's a database. Very simple architecture, but very successful. In the next century, 2000, of course, the cloud era began, combined with infrastructure components, which allows you to handle big data and mobile scenarios. That's the area of the digital transformation. Digital transformation involves using digital technologies in order to remake processes in a much more efficient and effective way. The idea is to use technology not only to transform business processes in a digital format, but also to rethink how you run the whole business and come to significantly better results. Of course, our customers are still in the process of transforming the business, so they are still running the digital transformation. But in technology, we are already one step further. We have now the intelligent enterprise. So we have now machine learning capabilities, IoT, analytics, blockchain. All those components are now there, and we can bring that into the enterprise. And with these kinds of technology, you can completely rethink how you run your business. Let's assume, for example, IoT. IoT is sensor data. So here we are not talking about gigabytes, but we are talking about terabytes or petabytes of data. And for sure, in order to get value out of this data, you need to have intelligent algorithms. So you need machine learning in order to get really value out of this vast amount of data. Otherwise, it's still storage in the database. You're wasting resources, energy, and money in the end. And machine learning, of course, without data, you can forget about that, right? And therefore, the enterprise space for machine learning is super important. What has not changed over the last 40 years is definitely the requirements we are getting from our customers. So it's all around, okay, I would like to write compliant software, compliant to data protection, compliant to security rules. So you know the famous European GDPR rules now in place since May 25th, right? So those kind of rules are super important for our customers, and we have to provide services which allows them to be compliant to those kind of regulations. Development experience. Again, as a technology guy, I like to work and think about storage, about software-defined networks, bandwidth, etc. But for our enterprise customer, this is too low level. They would like to get frameworks which allows them to easily implement business services. They would like to concentrate on their application domain. So how SAP is now tackling the cloud? We have 5 main pillars and 5 main categories of applications. First of all, and the most prominent one is definitely our digital core. So here it's all around our S/4HANA system, our integrated enterprise resource planning system. It contains functionality for finance, for sales, for controlling, for accounting, for product lifecycle, for manufacturing. So you get a whole bunch of software in order to run your day-to-day business. Then we have best-of-breed solutions for people engagement when it comes to HR, human capital management system, network and spend management, and customer experience around commerce, around marketplace, around marketing in general. So now we have a set of systems which allows our customers to run their daily business. But that's a set of systems. And our customers are requesting from us that they get an integrated experience. So let's have a simple example. Single sign-on. Of course, our customers are expecting from us that you have to sign on once and not twice or even more times, right? And therefore, we need an environment which allows our customer to intelligently connect our best-of-breed solutions. The same applies also to the innovation stack. So machine learning, blockchain, IoT, those kind of capabilities our customer would like to see also in the core systems, right? But, and that is very important to understand, without disruption. And therefore, we said at SAP, we apply the idea and the notion of a bi-model IT. That's not an invention coming from us. Gartner and IDC shaped this idea, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, where we said, okay, you have a mode 1 environment where the customer is running the core processes of their business. So that's our digital core, that's the manufacturing, etc. but they also need an innovation space. They need access to new technologies, to capabilities like machine learning, and we are running that in a dedicated environment, in a dedicated system. That's our Mode 2 environment, and here the SAP Cloud Platform comes into the game. The SAP Cloud Platform is the foundation for our innovation space. We are running that not in isolation to our Mode 1 environment, but we are connecting the Mode 2 environment based on the SAP Cloud Platform with the core business processes we have in our digital core. So that means when we have, for example, machine learning capabilities running on the SAP Cloud Platform side, we have corresponding integration points into our digital core. For example, for CV matching or invoice matching, for instance. But again, without disrupting the core processes. So the SAP Cloud Platform plus the data management components around HANA and the SAP Data Hub are the foundation of our cloud stack we have at SAP. So the intelligent enterprise is more than just ERP. So we have the SAP Cloud Platform as the glue code between all the cloud LOBs we have at SAP. Our two flagships, SAP S/4HANA, the digital core, SAP C/4HANA for our customer experience, for our commerce, for our marketing, tightly connect with the SAP Cloud Platform in order to bring innovations into the cloud LOBs. And for sure, we have Concur for travel management, we have Fieldglass for contingent worker, we have SuccessFactors for our HR solution, and Ariba for procurement. And last but not least, and that is also super important for our customers, they would like to connect third party with our system. And therefore, we have integration solution, which allows you to bring in third party from whatever vendor you have in mind. So let us now have a closer look at the centerpiece of our intelligent enterprise, the SAP Cloud Platform. So what is it all about? So first of all, as I said in the beginning, it is an enterprise platform as a service offering. So it is built upon an infrastructure as a service layer. And here, we are the only enterprise PaaS platform in the market which supports deployment on all three hypercloud providers, be it Google, be it Azure, be it AWS, and the SAP data centers. And we have data centers around the globe, not only in Germany. On top, we have the SAP Cloud Platform, and it's not a proprietary stack. Here, it consists of a number of open source frameworks. The most important frameworks are definitely Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes. You have also seen the announcement yesterday around Knative. So Knative tries to bridge the gap between Kubernetes and the platform as a service offering and function as a service offering. And it's definitely also our intent that we bring Knative into our platform. We started already the collaboration with Google 4 months ago. And we will also later on talk about an open source project which is directly sitting on top of Knative. So now the question is, of course, what is the difference between all the platform as a service offering we already have in the market? And that is the business service layer we bring on top of the open source frameworks, right? So our customers are requesting from us not only Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes because it's too low level for them. They would like to have solutions which allows them to easily create business services and applications. So therefore, they need, for example, in the security era, a personal data manager. They need secure communication between the different microservices they are implementing. Integration. Our customers have a large footprint on-premise. That's still the reality, right? And therefore, we also need integration capabilities which allows them to connect their cloud services with the solution they have today on-premise. Then, of course, they need a consistent UI, right, around our stack, Fiori. We will see that also later on in the demo part. And last but not least, what is also super important for us is definitely master data. So our customers, they would like to get access to the master data we have in our core system. Here we are talking about objects like supplier, products, business partner, employees. In order to create extensions to our core systems, you need access to those master data, which is spread across the different solutions we have in our cloud stacks. And we make that available through the SAP Cloud Platform. On top, we have components, which is the foundation of an umbrella. For example, we have our Cloud Cockpit, which allows you to administer and monitor the whole landscape we have at customer side. The Web IDE, it's a tooling for end-to-end development on top of the SAP Cloud Platform. Then we have UI5 and Fiori as our UI paradigm in order to have a consistent UI framework across our cloud solutions. And last but not least, for sure, we have an app center and a marketplace where customers and partners can get our software. So let's talk about the use cases of the SAP Cloud Platform. And of course, the first use case is you create completely new application, completely new cloud-native application, making use of our technical services and our business services. Secondly, I mentioned already the hybrid scenarios we have today at the customer side. Customers are running solutions on-premise. Customers are running solutions in the cloud. They would like to have data flows connecting all those systems. And therefore, we have integration capabilities. We have our cloud platform integration service directly sitting on top of our platform. Extension, I mentioned before, we have the Mode 1 environment, where customers are running the core businesses of their environment. And we have the SAP Cloud Platform as the innovation platform of SAP. And that means, of course, you would like to extend those Mode 1 environments with the SAP Cloud Platform. And last but not least, we have people and data connect. So here, we are talking about the mobile experience, the UI part, the collaboration, analytics, where you also have to connect different systems and bring them together in one place. Is it just a toy? Is it just PowerPoint? Hopefully not. So we have more than 10,000 customers on top of the SAP Cloud Platform already today. We have more than 1,000 partners. We have 19 data centers around the globe. We have more than 60,000 running virtual machines in all our data center. And it is not like in the good old on-premise times, so bringing software once a year or twice a year to our customers. No, we are bringing innovations to our customers on a bi-weekly basis. So to sum up, what is the SAP Cloud Platform all about? So it's an enterprise platform as a service offering. It consists of many open source frameworks. Most important ones are definitely Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes. We have open APIs. We have a business service layer on top of the SAP Cloud Platform, which allows our enterprise customer to create business services and business solutions in a very convenient way. And I would like to reiterate that we are the only platform in the market which supports deployment on all the hypercloud providers plus the SAP data centers. Yeah, let's talk about a customer we have.
Yeah, and let me make this a bit tangible with a concrete use case. So what does that mean? How do our customers, how do you really run into a digital transformation and can apply those services to a real world problem? I would like to introduce one of our customers here in San Francisco, which is Rainforest Connection. And Topher White, the CEO and founder of Rainforest Connection, is with us here today. For time reasons, I'm quickly going to introduce the use case, which became the SAP Innovation Award winner 2018. So can we very quickly switch to the demo laptop? Because that, I think, gives you a better idea what they are doing. I need the demo laptop for a minute. Sorry for that. OK, there we go. So what you can see, what the solution does is overall that it aims to stop illegal deforestation and illegal logging in rainforests. And Topher gave me a pretty nice video, which hopefully is running now, that shows you what actually is happening. Because if you have chainsaw events all over the globe in the rainforests out there, you would like to stop them. And what we would need to do is to figure out how to do so. Unfortunately, the video doesn't work. So let's switch back to the slides. Let me explain it without the video. Because within those rainforests, there's a lot of rangers that do take care that the rainforest is taken care of and that illegal loggers get stopped. But you have to figure out where they are and have to figure out that immediately. And in order to do so, what Rainforest Connection already invented without SAP is how to have mobile devices in the trees powered by solar panels that get the information and that get sounds from the rainforest and can identify chainsaw events and then notify the rangers to go to a certain event. Where now SAP came into the game was at an innovation event taking place 5 days, where we moved into the future and where we gave a mobile app on the one hand side that then sends the alerts and in an augmented reality sends the rangers to the right place. And it not only notifies the rangers once the chainsaw is started and the first tree is already falling down, but it helps you to identify this upfront. Because machine learning algorithms figured out that with the sounds you can identify patterns upfront. Because birds stop singing, probably hear some car sounds beforehand that go there. So the rangers are already notified and go to the most likely place that the algorithms detect and really stop them before the first tree is going down. Moreover, analytics is needed because you would like to work with the legal authorities to say, well, what happened and how did our activities improve the situation that less rainforest or no activities at all are taking place. So within 5 days, a pilot app has been developed, bringing together the different technologies that I just mentioned here. And you can see a quote from Topher that this is really amazing, and there's a lot more opportunities that SAP and Rainforest Connection at the moment are looking for to advance that and to bring more algorithms into the play. If you would like to know more, get some experiences of the application, of the activity, and the experience with SAP, join us at the booth, meet Topher there, and ask some questions.
Thank you very much, Jana. Let's go a little bit deeper into the SAP and Google partnership, and let's talk about the co-innovation projects we are running together with Google. First of all, it is that we are bringing our SAP solutions, be it S/4HANA or C/4HANA or BW/HANA, directly on the Google hardware to get a corresponding certification. That is one of the key things we are doing with Google. For sure, when it comes to our in-memory flagship, HANA, here we are also running co-innovation projects with Google in order to get greater installations, larger installations of our HANA system up and running on the Google hardware. And here we are not just talking about a 1 terabyte machine or a 2 terabyte machine. Here we are really talking about large scale out of our HANA systems of 40 terabytes, for instance. That's what we have in mind, what we would like to do together with Google. Then our cloud appliance library. What is that? It's a pre-packaged library of SAP solutions. So we have roughly 80 different pre-packaged solutions you can directly take and can get a kickstart for your project and get it deployed directly on Google Cloud. G Suite integration, in particular when it comes to export into Google Sheets. So up to now, it was a completely manual process. Of course, you can get ERP data directly out of the system, put it into a CSV file, upload it into Google Drive, and then use Google Sheets. Now we have a full G Suite integration in our ERP systems available. SAP Data Custodian, in particular when it comes to customers moving from on-premise in the cloud, they are thinking about GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. And the question is now, when I move my data into the cloud, where is this data really located? Who gets access to the data? What's happening when the data gets moved, right? So the customer would like to get insight what's happening with the data when running solutions inside the cloud. And of course, they would like to have access rules, right? Who can really access my data? Who can really decide that we move the data from one location to the next? And there, SAP, together with Google, created a SaaS solution called SAP Data Custodian, which allows our customer to really get the insight into the data, where it is stored, where it is managed, and also to apply corresponding rules. It is now GA, Since Sapphire, we are making use of Google functionality, the Google Access Transparency Framework that is being used in our data custodian. For sure, the SAP Cloud Platform is now generally available on Google since Sapphire, since June 2018. Then Knative and Kuma, I mentioned that briefly. So Knative as a new framework in order to get eventing, in order to get a build mechanism around Kubernetes, also to improve the overall developer experience. I think that's definitely the right step moving forward. And we have now also the first Lighthouse project, which is now also published on GitHub. So it's open source. That's our project Kima. It's an extension framework for our digital core. We will go into the details in a few minutes so that you can also see Kuma in action, how it feels, how you can run it. As I said, it's available on GitHub. You can directly use it. And the Android SDK for the SAP Cloud Platform. I mentioned before we have Fiori as our UI paradigm inside the SAP Cloud Platform. And now the question is how you can use this UI framework also in the context of Google, for example, in the context of the Android Studio. Jana, would you like to show us?
Yeah, first of all, let me quickly give you a glimpse of the components involved, just that you get a basic idea what I'm going to show you in a minute. Well, SAP is developing applications itself for the different line of business solutions, and you as customers and partners can develop mobile applications too. And that's a very common pattern that a lot of customers and partners have the need to renovate UIs and develop hybrid applications and native applications for your mobile devices. Of course, those should support standard capabilities like offline capabilities, push notifications, having engagement analytics, getting all the required logs and traces. And from our end, of course, SAP Cloud Platform strengths and capabilities are added to this as well, that you can authenticate in a secure manner, have the right identities in place, integrate with the according backend systems, leverage API management to just call the APIs that you're allowed to call, and on the lowest hand side to connect to backend systems with the according business data. What I'm going to focus on is the section of SDK and tools, where we use the Android Studio in combination with SAP Cloud Platform SDK for Android to really allow to use the standard tools to create an application. And what we are going to use is a wizard, because remember, a lot of customers just want a start point to go ahead and not figure out the technology in depth right from the beginning. Thus, moving to the demo laptop, please. Let's have a look at the Android Studio, and it's going to be, there it is. So what you can see, it's just a standard Android Studio where we have with the according plugin the option to start an SAP Cloud Platform project. And I'm going to use a free trial account. We will see that in a minute, so I already configured that up front. And what I'm going to do inside is that I'm going to create a new project. This project will, of course, get a suitable name. So let me call this Google Next. And now, interestingly, I have some issues with the resolution, which I haven't had in any of the dry runs. That's a bit tricky. I'm sorry for that. The resolution is different than what should be. But good news, at least I have a fallback. Let's use the video then instead. It's not as nice as a live demo. The other ones most likely are going to work live, but let's use this one. So we've already been at this part that we connect to our trial account. We create a new project with the according application ID, and of course we're going to use real-life authentication, meaning XAML, to authenticate my project. What I'm going to use in the next step is that I add a destination where the data is coming from. And here, with our trial accounts, we get some sample services, and we use an OData v4 service as a start point. What we now can do is that we enable logging or push mechanisms, and that we generate a UI so that we have this as a start point in a Fiori look and feel. The project will get an according name. Of course, it's Google Next for the demo purposes here. And now let's finish this. This typically takes a moment, and thus, while the whole Cradle build and the syncing is starting, let's have a look at the free trial accounts. You can find those over our website, cloudplatform.sap.com. Of course, I already registered, so we can log in. and use this trial account to look at the according services that we have in place. So we use the service environment, and you see there's the whole plenty of services that we've seen beforehand that you can leverage as a toolkit to create an application. I'm going ahead now and I use the mobile services. So there we can develop and see our application. So we go to the service, and in here we can now see all the mobile services created. Let's look at the mobile applications, and what you see is that we have a native application in place that we just created a minute ago, which is the Google Next one. Let's take this one, and there we can see on the right-hand side the connectivity that we just configured with the destinations. To give you an idea what we are connecting to, let's look at the service. Let's do a preview of the output of what we're getting here. And you see, we get a whole entity set of services with according sales orders, product categories. So this demo service delivers some sales orders and some ideas how to move forward here. Of course, in real life, you wouldn't create an application with a demo service, but that's a great start point. And you can find those in the section destinations. So those that come with the sample name, of course, are the sample services that you get out of the box. And you can see I configured a connection to an S/4HANA system on-premise as well that connects through a cloud connector, a small component on-premise that allows you to then leverage your ABAP systems as well as any internet systems. Now the build is over, and we can move back to our Android Studio. And once we've done so, we can look at the project that has been generated. And you can see that in the project, we have all the applications in place. Let's just fast forward because that now takes a moment. And what we're going to do is that we are now not, as a real-life developer, extending the coding right away, because every one of us, of course, could now go ahead with the Java coding. But let's just do a preview of the generated application, how this looks like. Going ahead, the build takes again a moment. And if it's ready, then we can see the application created. And you see, it's right away coming with the Fiori UI. It has the project name that we've just given it beforehand, and we can get started and work with the application. And no big surprise, as we connected to the OData service that we've seen beforehand. First, we configured XAML to be used. So that's why I'm authenticating with my according user. And for the OData service that we've seen beforehand, we get the same result set, but now visualized for the mobile UI and in the according Fiori style. So we go again into product categories, and there we can see the categories that we've just seen beforehand. So that's an easy start point to now create a native application that then meets all our individual needs. Good. Handing back to the presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, let's talk about our open source activities and community frameworks we are running at SAP. So first of all, of course, we are consuming a lot of open source frameworks. Also the platform you're seeing, 90% of the code we have relates to open source. So we are consuming, and I think that is really an impressive number, we are consuming over 1,500 open source projects per month. Of course, we are not talking always about new projects, but also new versions, right? And we are scanning that for compliance and vulnerabilities to also have a compelling and enterprise-ready offering, of course, for our customers. But we are not just consuming, we are also amongst the top 10 global open source companies on GitHub. We have over 750 contributors. A nice example is also the contributions to the Cloud Foundry open source project. Here we are the second largest contributor after Pivotal. We are close to 100 employees from SAP contributing to Cloud Foundry. So let's have a look at all the nice open source foundations and also noteworthy open source projects. First of all, of course, we are part of the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, CNCF. We are not only part, we are also part of the board of directors. So my boss, Björn Görker, is on the board of directors. The same applies also to Cloud Foundry. I'm in the technology advisory board. And of course, we are also contributing to OpenAPI and the Eclipse Foundation since the very beginning. We have a number of very nice open source projects. And for me, and I have to admit I'm a little bit biased, the most important project for me is definitely the SAP machine. That's simply because I was part of the corresponding development team 10 years ago. So here we are talking about our own Java virtual machine we have at SAP. It is based on the OpenJDK, but we are bringing a number of additional features like profiling, like monitoring, like debugging on demand to the Java world. OrientDB, our graph-based database. We have the UI framework open sourced. That's OpenUI 5. Then we have the service manager. Maybe you know, in the Kubernetes world, we have the service catalog where you get access to all the nice services being deployed onto your Kubernetes environment. In the Cloud Foundry world, you are getting access to the cloud controller where you are registering all your nice services. But there are two worlds, right? So let's assume, for example, I have an application being deployed on Kubernetes, and I would like to consume the services running on Cloud Foundry. Not that easy. And therefore, we said it makes sense to bring those two worlds together. And therefore, we open sourced also our service manager concept, which is the integration point, right? So bringing the service catalog from Kubernetes and also the corresponding services you have deployed on Cloud Foundry together. But again, in a fashion that you can really consume the Cloud Foundry service in the Kubernetes environment via the normal mechanism you have on Kubernetes, and the same applies also the other way around when we are talking about Cloud Foundry. Then on top, we have the most important and most prominent open source project. That's definitely Project Gardener. I'll come to that in a second. It's a solution for providing Kubernetes as a service on all the hypercloud providers in order to spin up Kubernetes cluster per button press. Kuber, I mentioned that in the beginning, extension framework to our digital core, directly sitting on top of Knative, and also here, we come to that in a second. So Gardener and Kubernetes. So for us, Kubernetes is definitely one of the most important topics inside our SAP Cloud Platform. Our complete stack relies on Kubernetes. And here we are not just talking about, oh, I need to spin up one Kubernetes cluster or two. No, we have to spin up thousands of Kubernetes clusters for our customer. You know that in Kubernetes, there is no multi-tenancy concept. So that means, for example, when we are deploying our SAP Big Data Hub stack on top of Kubernetes, then the customer is getting a dedicated Kubernetes cluster, right? And therefore, we must have a tool in place which allows us to handle this huge amount of Kubernetes cluster we have in our environment. And that is exactly where Project Gardener comes into the game. It is not that we reinventing something new on Kubernetes. Here we are talking and using the open source contribution and distribution from the open source world, but we are handling the complete life cycle of the Kubernetes clusters via our Gardener tool. And here we are also talking about all the nice day-2 operations when it comes to update, upgrade, HR, backup, restore. That is exactly what we are doing with our Gardener tool. Let's go a little bit deeper and check how we are spinning up Kubernetes cluster. So in general, when we are talking about Kubernetes, you have a control plan. On the one hand side, the API server, the controller, the etcd, so the distributed storage. So that's the control plan of Kubernetes. And when it comes to an HR setup, in general, you need 3 nodes. And then you have the worker nodes doing the actual work. So when we are talking about 10,000 clusters, it looks like this. And also, and I think the same applies also to other companies and customers and partners, the control plan is in general completely underutilized when we are talking about CPU usage. So let's assume, for instance, we have 10,000 Kubernetes cluster. Then we are talking about 30,000 control plan nodes, completely underutilized. And that means, of course, waste of memory, waste of compute, and waste of money. And therefore, we said, maybe that's not the best approach, and we have to rethink how we are spinning up Kubernetes cluster. So first of all, we introduced the notion of a seed cluster. Here it is. The seed cluster is available per region and per hypercloud provider. So we have it once per GCP in one dedicated region. And this seed cluster, again, has a control plan and also a corresponding worker nodes. And this seed cluster is managing all the nice Kubernetes cluster we are spinning up for our customers. So we have 10,000 worker Kubernetes cluster and 1 seed cluster. And you can see there is no control plane inside our so-called shoot clusters. And the question is, where is now the control plane? And the answer is quite simple. We are using directly Kubernetes in order to handle the control planes of our shoot clusters. So we are using Kubernetes in order to manage our Kubernetes cluster, right? So that means the worker nodes of our seed cluster contains the control plane of our created shoot clusters. And therefore, we are saving a lot of money.
Good.
Good, and let's see how it looks like in action.
So let me give you a brief idea how this looks like. So moving to the demo laptop, I'm going to show you the environment that we internally leverage and that we give to our stakeholders and to us as development teams to create Kubernetes clusters. So that's the UI that comes with the open source project and that we now use in order to log into our project space. Of course, all secure, so you've seen I'm authenticating via XAML to our identity providers too. And what you can see on the first side, let me go to secrets. So we have here a management environment, and of course I can bring my own secrets to my different infrastructure providers like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform in order to spin up the clusters there. And you can see we've already done so. So I created various clusters in the different environments. I have something on AWS, Google Cloud Platform, Microsoft Azure, and our own SAP data center. Let's now go ahead and create a new one. And this is, again, very convenient in a wizard-based manner. So I can go ahead, create one for Google Next. You could guess on which infrastructure I'm going to provide it. And you see we support different versions of Kubernetes, and the latest version, 1.11, just released a few weeks back, of course, is available here too. On the next side, we can add different types of worker groups. So in case we have different needs with regards to machine types, so if we have here some machine types for a certain class of services, we can add them as a separate group. And lastly, we can already define add-ons that we would like to add to this Kubernetes cluster and have auto-deployed like Monocular. And you can see Knative and Kima are some add-ons that we can deploy to our Kubernetes cluster too. So this is now going to create the cluster, and as we don't want to wait endlessly, let's take the other Google one that we created already. And then you can see from this management environment, we're just moving to the regular Kubernetes dashboards and can there continue working as we usually do. So moving back.
Thank you very much, Jana. And let's come to our last topic, and that is Project Kima. I mentioned at the beginning, that's our extension framework we have for our digital core. So whenever it comes to creating extension on top of the SAP Cloud Platform, we are now making use of the Kima framework. Kima is based on Knative. It is open source. It's available on GitHub. It is not a proprietary thing, what we have invented here. We are making use of all the nice components you're getting from CNCF, be it Istio, be it Kubernetes, be it serverless, be it function as a service. So all the components you have there are also part of our Kima project. And let's have a look how it works in the end. So on the left-hand side, you have our Mode 1 environments. At this time, we have our C4HANA system suite, for instance, but you can also have our S4 system or our SuccessFactors system, doesn't matter at all. And we have in the middle, we have the SAP Cloud Platform. We have Kima being deployed on top of the platform. Again, Knative is running here. And what we are doing now in order to make use of our extension framework is, first of all, we have to register all those systems we have on the left-hand side on Kima. So that's the first step. Then, of course, I would like to react on events happening in my Mode 1 environment. So let's assume, for example, when we are talking about C4HANA, an order gets created or a shopping cart gets created, right? So business events happening in our Mode 1 environment. And we have a corresponding registry in the Kima environment where we store all the nice business events happening in our Mode 1 environment. Of course, now I have the nice events in my Kima. The question is, what should I do with that? So I need to have a framework which allows us to react accordingly. And here we are making use of function as a service. So that means whenever a business event gets raised on the left-hand side, we have a corresponding function or workflow in the Kima environment, which allows me to use the complete business services, to use the complete innovation stack we have on the SAP Cloud Platform. So I can use machine learning, I can use the business services we have, any open service broker compatible service provider we can put in the service catalog and make them available in our Kima framework to react whenever a business event on the Mode 1 environment gets created. And of course, the corresponding result gets triggered back into my Mode 1 environment. So let's have a look.
Yeah, sure.
Kima
so
in
last
action.
demo, to give you an idea what this feels like. So as mentioned beforehand, we have a web shop, and what you can see within this web shop, which is of course built on top of C4, I'm already registered. So I'm a returning visitor, I already purchased some cameras here, and I'm now looking through the latest offers. Now, oh, guess what? There's a very nice pink camera, so that's definitely one I have to get. So let me add this to my cart, and let's check this out. Okay, so we just take all the details that I have here and just want to do express checkout. That usually should work. Come on. There's a checkout button. So we just go ahead and do the checkout of this item, and somehow that was a problem. Okay, log in and checkout. We just take the details that I had in place, so all my shipping addresses, all my payment details, I'm just going ahead with, and I would like to purchase this camera. So far, this process is not a huge surprise, apart from that the button doesn't work the way I want it to. So it shouldn't be a big surprise, because that's something most of us do each and every day. And come on. That's always what happens with live demos, right? So let's give that another try. Let's open the web shop and let's do an express checkout again. So it's not a huge surprise what we are doing here. Each and every one of us is ordering regularly items via different web shops. And what's happening while we do this, we trigger a couple of events. So I created a shopping cart. What I'm now going to do is that I'm transferring this shopping cart into an order. And the interesting point is that I would like to react to this as a developer. So let's say, for example, at the moment we run a marketing campaign and would like to give some special discount if you order within the next 2 hours another item. In order to see within Kima how we can react to those events, let's just look first at the connected systems. You see we have a commerce system connected, we can connect a marketing system, and this is really the environment that then allows us to work with those systems. Of course, now we're going to work within our production environment. And here you can see this is connected to the commerce solution that we've just seen beforehand. And what we have in place here is that we have two functions that we're listening to. When a new customer is created, or when an order is created, what I just did. So you can see in here that we have right away an editor where we can listen to the different events. That's now just a pure thing of the resolution, but you see there's various events coming from commerce that we can react on, and we just listen to the order created event. So you see we get the event data transferred, and the interesting point is now that we get from this event stream the order details and of course the customer details. Later down in the coding, we can see that a certain email is sent with a marketing campaign, and we have a small code here that adapts and updates an entry of our customers and says when's the latest order taking place. What this does is that it fills a MySQL database and that it updates the entry. What is interesting about this is that we see here the service catalog. So we can see what we've just explained beforehand, that you can see the different services from the different providers, be it SAP Cloud Platform, be it Azure, be it Google Cloud Platform. And here's, for example, the MySQL database that we use in this example in order to store the transactional data that we have in place. Now, looking at the last point at the application that gets generated, it's not the most fancy application, but it's an application that just reacted on this event. So we can see that Jana Richter has just at 4 p.m. created a new order. So we reacted on the event and we ran the application and just created this entry at the minute and at the second when the event was taking place. So back to the summary.
Thank you very much, Jana, and let's come to the summary. So what should you get home from this session? So first of all, definitely that SAP and Google is co-innovating on a number of projects. So Knative, Kuma is one of the most prominent one, definitely. The SAP Cloud Platform is the centerpiece of the Intelligent Enterprise Suite. So that is the glue code between our Mode 1 and between our innovation space. We have the business layer sitting on top of the open source frameworks, which is the key differentiator to all the other platform as a service offering in the market. And last but not least, we have also an ask for you. Help wanted. So involve and contribute to our community projects, in particular Project Gardener and Keemer. That would be our ask towards you. And if you have any questions after the session, you can meet us at our SAP booth at 4:30. So thanks for your attention. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.